Arizona Wildlife Views, brought to you by the sale of hunting and fishing licenses and the Heritage Fund, lottery dollars working for wildlife. Some projects made possible by the Sportfish and Wildlife Restoration Fund.
Find birds. Let's go.
Welcome to another edition of Arizona Wildlife Views. I'm your host, Jim Harkin. We all know that water is a very precious resource in the desert, and tonight we'll show you what the Arizona Game and Fish Department is doing to help wildlife survive in the arid habitat. But first, we take you to the Arizona Strip in the far northwest corner of the state, and we'll meet a man who's in charge of protecting that vast wilderness.
I want to ride to the ridge where the west commences and gaze at the moon until I lose my senses. I can't look at harbors and I can't stand fences. Don't fence me in. The Arizona Strip is known as one of the few places where the West is still wild, an area almost twice the size of Delaware without a single paved road or gas station, or much of anything else man-made. It's a stunning area of natural environments, bordered by Utah on the north and the Grand Canyon on the south. Its remoteness is what keeps it so special.
There's kind of that mystique. You know, the Arizona Strip is God's country, so to speak, in the middle of nowhere. You know, you can't get any more remote than this in Arizona. You really can't.
To the Arizona Game and Fish Department, this area has the unromantic designation as Sector 13B, but its name in no way detracts from its importance as a great wildlife and recreational resource. And the job of patrolling and protecting this vast area falls to its sole wildlife manager, Luke Thompson.
The only way to get to my district really is through another state. You know, I'll joke every now and again on a normal day of patrol, I'll be in 3 states. You know, I'll start in Utah, patrol of course in Arizona, and I may have to drive through Nevada to get back into Utah, you know, to end the patrol day.
Luke actually lives in St. George, Utah, the closest town of any size, and drives into his sector regularly. He uses a Bureau of Land Management cabin as home base when he's on patrol, so he can spend more time in the field and less time commuting, if you will. And there is plenty to keep him busy.
Oh, yeah. Real nice. Well, how many guys got tags? All 3 of you, or just one of you guys? Oh, just you? Okay, well, I'll go ahead and take a look at your tags real quick and your license. So have you guys heard birds at all, or seen any, or anything? No? Saw one dead one, so he was saying. So. Well, hey guys, we'll let you get back to it. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Good luck on the hunt.
Luke may patrol a larger area than most wildlife managers, but it is an area that he has come to know very well, and getting to know the folks he encounters out here is all part of the job.
Hello. How you doing? Good, how are you? Are you guys down here for the turkey hunt, Dennis?
No, we've been out to Kelly Point.
Have you?
Yeah.
Did you go all the way down?
All the way down.
Really?
Wonderful trip.
Fantastic. When you spend a lot of time in one general area or one district of the state, you learn it. You learn where the roads are, you learn where campsites are, you learn where people like to hunt. You learn details of your district, and when you come out here and you see something abnormal, it's easy to pick up on it. For example, yesterday we saw the feathers in the road. That's abnormal, to drive down the road and see feathers like that scattered out right on the side of the road. We also saw a spot yesterday on the fence line where an animal had gone under the fence and a tuft of hair was collected on the barbed wire. That's abnormal. It's not something I see all the time. Depending on what these feathers are, they could be anything, but some type of bird. I don't suspect a big game, but you know, drag marks like this off the road, I always look for this type of thing. It could be people dragging deer off the road that they might have poached illegally. I'll find stuff dead out here. It could be rabbits, could be coyotes, could be an old deer carcass, a deer skeleton that's off the road a little ways. I always stop and I look at that stuff. I'm looking for any type of evidence that somebody may have visited that, footprints, anything, old tire tracks that are going up to it. I look for evidence in the I look for bullet casings in the grass, anything that might help me determine if that animal died naturally or if that animal died because of man.
Keeping a keen eye on his district, he investigates things that seem a little out of place or a little out of the ordinary, whether it's tire tracks that weren't there the year before or an empty camp.
And nobody's here, so I was just taking down vehicle info. You know, we tend to get reports after the fact a lot of times, and it may be just a vehicle description, it may be a camp description, it may just be a location. And so I try and take down descriptions of vehicles, etc., four-wheelers that I may see in camps, just in case we get a report and I need to follow up. The commission of the Game and Fish Department has given me the authority and the obligation to enforce the laws of the wildlife laws of the state. And if I wasn't following up on that, I would be going against my duties. Do you have an Arizona state land permit?
Luke's law enforcement duties aren't limited to just hunters and hunting. They also extend to anyone who may have, unwittingly, broken the law, like this man who was camping on state trust land without a permit. Luke directs him to an area where it's legal to camp, then continues his patrol, looking for anyone or anything who might have an impact on the land.
You went all the way to Two-Weep this morning? That's a long ride. Anyway, listen, the reason I stopped you guys, I work for the Arizona State Game and Fish Department. And part of our job is we like to talk to as many four-wheelers and motorcyclists out there that are recreating as we can and just fill them in about the laws of the state regarding driving on roads, staying on roads, helmet needs. You guys look pretty squared away with your safety equipment, with your helmets and whatnot. One thing I really want to advise you about is driving off-road. One thing I noticed over here when you got onto this road is you kind of cut across right there. It's actually illegal to drive cross-country in this section of Arizona. Because there's nothing wrong with folks coming out and riding dirt bikes and four-wheelers. It's a problem when we go off-road and we're impacting, for example, springs. I have some problems up here with dirt bikes riding around springs, tearing up springs, and of course that's affecting wildlife habitat. Deer and antelope go into those springs for water, and all kinds of things like that. What I would like to do is I'd like to give you guys a brochure just describing the state laws, so when you get home you can review it if you want. There's yours. They were really receptive, and they seem to have been staying on the roads for the most part, from what we could tell. You know, they claimed to have driven over 100 miles that day on their motorcycle and their quad. So, you know, they obviously spent a lot of time out here. But again, at the same time, they did acknowledge that they were unfamiliar with Arizona laws. So it was good to be able to provide them that information and just visit with them a little bit on the reason we do that.
Luke truly enjoys spending time with the people he meets out here, and it's a good thing he does because oftentimes the hunters seek him out to demonstrate their latest gadget.
Yep. Perfectly legal. Nothing wrong with that. So, well, do you have the bird with you, or is it back at camp?
And show off their game.
All that iridescence.
It's really beautiful. The green and the bronze on the wings.
Yep.
It was just gorgeous.
Yep.
And just spend some time talking about the latest fashions.
Do you like that camel pattern?
Yeah, I like this a lot.
How are you? Good.
Most people that Luke encounters take comfort that he's out here, that someone is protecting the wildlife and the habitat from those who abuse it.
I call them the 1%ers. The 1%ers are the ones that are breaking the laws and ruining for everybody, and the 99%ers are everybody else. They're doing everything right. They're diligent. They're concerned about conservation. They love the sport of hunting. They want to protect the sport of hunting. They want to protect the animal they're hunting. We talked with some individuals today that had a real respect for the turkey that he harvested. He was really excited with his harvest. He had it tagged properly, had it cared for properly. He had just enjoyed the whole experience overall. And for the most part, that's who we talk to out here. Really. I hear that all the time, folks will say, you know, I'm so glad to see you out here doing your job. And, you know, they're right. It is my job, and I will be out here doing it.
Like with all law enforcement, Luke's job is not without risk, but he knows his territory and he's prepared.
We're trained on ways to be defensive, on ways to read people. People give off body language more than they know, and we're trained to pick up on that. And again, for the most part, most folks are fine. You know, they don't have a problem talking to us. They don't have a problem with us stopping by camp. There's the occasional folks that really just don't want you around.
But law enforcement is only part of Luke's job. He has a degree in wildlife conservation from Arizona State and worked in the field as a biologist for several years before applying and being accepted into the wildlife management program. Then it was back to school.
The process to become a wildlife manager is extremely long. There's a 16-week state police academy that we attend where we're trained in state laws, defensive tactics, firearms, etc. And at the end of that 16 weeks, we become fully certified state police officers, just like counties, deputies, just like city policemen, just like DPS officers. After that, we attended a 4-month game and fish training where we were trained in all the ins and outs of the department. I really enjoy the wildlife management aspect of this position, and I originally got in the field to work with big game, i.e. mule deer, white-tailed deer, bighorn sheep, pronghorn antelope, mountain lion, and the law enforcement is kind of a bonus right now. It originally was not my focus. My focus was to work with big game, but the opportunity came along for this position, and with this position, of course, you get the opportunity to work with big game. We have survey flights, very hands-on management with the wildlife here on the Strip. Hey, can I get one of you guys just to help me unload this?
Today, Luke is working with a group that is converting miles of barbed wire cattle fence into something easier for pronghorn antelope to cross.
Pronghorn are notorious for not being able to cross fences. Pronghorn don't like to jump. They will go under a fence before they jump a fence, and if they can't get under the fence, they won't jump it a lot of times. They'll just stay on the side of the fence they're on. That can be a problem if the pronghorn needs to get to water that's on the other side of the fence, and that's especially important during lactation. When the does have fawns around and they're lactating for those fawns, does have an extreme water need during that period of time, and if they can't get to water, they can't lactate correctly, and potentially we're affecting the survival of that fawn. So what we're doing is we contracted with the American Conservation Experience, and they brought a crew out, and we're reconstructing these fences to make them passable for antelope. And specifically, we're replacing the bottom wire. You can see the bottom wire here is smooth. We're replacing the bottom wire. It was originally barbed wire. So we're replacing it with smooth wire so that the antelope don't get injured when they go underneath the fence. And we're also raising the bottom wire to approximately 16 or 18 inches so that there's more room for those antelope to go under the fence.
And for this particular crew, it's a more unique experience than most.
Most of this crew that we have here today is actually international. They were telling me the other day we have folks from Korea, Denmark, Madagascar, Germany, you know, so they have the experience to come out here, see something they probably really haven't seen in most of their life, and have the opportunity to do something really good for wildlife.
Well, I'm here in the middle of nowhere in Arizona, and we're doing this fence, or we're replacing this bottom wire. So we take the barbed wire away and replace it with a smoother wire, so that these antelopes can come under easily. I guess they get cut on this one otherwise.
Karen is from Sweden, and this is her first visit to America.
I think it's beautiful. It's very much drier than in Sweden. But I was thinking about it today when I was standing up there, that it reminds a little bit of the Swedish mountains when you're up above the tree limit, because then it's also like this big areas with nothing, and you can see far. But of course, it doesn't look like this. But it was I really enjoyed the trip, like when we were driving here, because I've never seen anything like it. And yeah, the way like the rocks look, and yeah, I think it's great.
I meant to mention to you guys the other day, when you get real close to the cliffs up there, you don't have to go all the way up that fence line.
Darn, because I wanted to drive up there.
Because that, you know, get as close as you can, but when it starts getting really, really steep up there, don't try to get up there, because the antelope don't use that too much anyway.
Okay.
The fencing work will continue for months. The cattle they are meant to control have roamed this range for over 100 years, and you can see evidence of early operations slowly dissolving back into the landscape. One constant here for all living things is the need for water, and the Arizona Game and Fish Department is making sure that there are enough water resources for all the wildlife in this harsh environment.
I check these 2, 3, 4 times a year sometimes, just to make sure the fences are up, make sure they have water. If it's July and this is dry, we need to get in here and haul water to it with our development crew. Because if we don't, we're risking losing deer, we're risking losing turkeys. And beyond the big game that rely on these, there's a myriad of non-game birds, etc., that come and use this. I was at this catchment 2 years ago, and I had a merlin come in, which is a falcon-like bird, pretty rare bird. Real pretty slate gray bird, and it came in and used the drinker for about 10 minutes while I was sitting in the trees. It was pretty neat. There's really not any spare time. It's a big country. There's not hunts year round, but there's so much other things that we do down here that you don't just come down here and drive around and look at trees. We have so many other things that we're doing with the water facilities. This time of year, I'm also looking at cattle dirt tanks. I'm looking at the cattle facilities to see how much water is in those facilities. I want to get a feel of what the water outlook is for the year. If we're looking good, then I don't have to worry about it so much in July. But if we've got problems, we need to address them now so we can be prepared for those drought months, basically.
One of the most recent challenges Luke has had to deal with is the designation of 1 million acres of his region as part of the Grand Canyon Parashant National Monument. He is helping to negotiate Sector 13B's place under the National Monument umbrella.
It's a very, very large area, and the main impact from the monument is the potential for affecting wildlife management and the way that the state manages wildlife on the monument. And when I say that, I'm specifically talking about things like transplants, reintroductions, supplemental releases of bighorn sheep, for example, in bighorn sheep habitat, supplemental releases of turkeys in turkey habitat, building wildlife waters for deer, turkey, non-game animals. The ability to do that while it is going to remain intact with the monument, it's going to be a lot harder to do those once the planning process is completed. And the Game and Fish Department not only has the statutory authority, but we have the desire, and I believe the obligation, to continue to improve the wildlife habitat out here. And that does mean improving water availability for wildlife, and also doing things such as prescribed burns in conjunction with the BLM, clearing out some of the dense canopy pinyon juniper forests so that we can increase the browse production underneath those trees and get more quality forage for deer, for pronghorn, for turkey, for every animal. And the ability to do that type of thing is going to get harder.
With nearly 3,000 square miles to look after, Luke Thompson has a very big job in a very big land, and he loves it.
I've got all the wildlife management activity I could want and the law enforcement activity to go with it. I really can't ask for much better for a wildlife manager. I really can't.
At the end of his day, under the propane light in the BLM cabin, Luke begins his paperwork. This is a government job, you know, but he also keeps a personal journal where he can recount his thoughts and his experiences in this unique land, like having the Grand Canyon in his backyard.
You know, you go to the South Rim and the North Rim of the Grand Canyon, where you drive through the gate of the park, and they've got the interpretive decks, and they've got the visitor center and everything, and there's campsites. You really don't have that out here. It's a completely different, almost, hey, I'm on the edge of the great big world experience, and nobody's around, you know, and very few people get the opportunity to see it.
Water catchments, like the ones that Luke manages up north, are spread across the state. In this story, we take you out in the desert near Ajo and show you what it takes to build one.
The deserts of the Southwest are some of the most beautiful and biologically diverse places on the planet. Drought conditions are normal in these arid regions, and the indigenous species have adapted to these harsh environments in order to survive. For example, the kangaroo rat gets all the water it needs from the food it eats. Other animals, like desert bighorn sheep, have the ability to go for long periods of time without water and still avoid dehydration. When the desert regions began being converted to agricultural and urban areas, there was less water available for wildlife, and what water was available was more difficult for them to get to.
Personally, I feel like that we have altered the landscape by our presence. We fragmented the landscape, so many of the natural corridors where wildlife could get to water are now closed. And so we're probably providing a source that some of these animals would have gotten to historically.
So in 1946, the Arizona Game and Fish Department built its first artificial water catchment. They are designed to catch rainwater, hence the name catchment, store it, then divert it to a drinking trough. Today, nearly 1,000 water catchments have been constructed throughout Arizona. This one, on the Barry Goldwater Range, is being replaced by a newer system.
Well, the old tank held approximately 5,000 gallons. The new system will be close to 10,000 gallons in capacity. The system works by collecting rainwater off of a natural watershed. It pours into the PVC pipe, which becomes the storage capacity, the storage tanks, and it's fed by gravity to a walk-in drinker. And the animals drink out of the drinker, and whatever the level in the tanks is the level in the drinker. The goal of this project is to eliminate water hauling. This is a very remote site, and it's very difficult to get a water truck to this site. And occasionally during drought years, the old system would require water hauling. And that would sometimes result in busted tires and broken equipment. So we hope to save a great deal of money by building an efficient system that we can avoid water hauling with.
At some water catchments, cameras have been installed so the department can see who's using them. And as this video shows, just about every creature does. From big game animals to birds, even snakes need a drink now and then. And once in a while, a youngster just needs to splash around and get wet.
Oh, we feel like it's a good thing because we're stewards of the land, and it does provide a water source for wildlife in a time of drought, which obviously we've had an extended drought. We certainly don't see it as being something bad. We're very pleased with this new design because it is completely subterranean, and with the larger capacity, it requires less maintenance.
Projects like this would be impossible for the department to build and maintain without a strong army of volunteers. Most of the people working on this project are members of the Yuma Valley Rod and Gun Club.
The Yuma Valley Rod and Gun Club does probably 3 to 4 a year with Arizona Game and Fish Department, and we just enjoy it. We are sportsmen, we hunt out here, we think that they need this improvements on their water. Our club is basically focused on the hunting and fishing and outdoors, and we have all kinds of young people involved in our club, and this is something we can do and give back. And we supply, when we come out here, we supply all the food and everything for even the game and fish people. So we donate all the food and the cooks and our help to try and, because the budget that Game and Fish has got to deal with, sometimes they can't get these done without the help that we can supply.
Since this new drinker has a large underground system made of PVC pipe, it should last with little maintenance for over 50 years.
One of the ways I like to motivate our volunteers is I ask them, what else can you do in a weekend that'll have a positive benefit to wildlife for the next 50 or 60 years? It's hard to come up with something that competes with that.
That's our show for this evening. If you'd like any more information about anything you saw on the show, check out our website at azgfd.gov. For producers Carol Lind and Gary Schaefer, I'm your host, Jim Harkin. Thanks for watching.